Yes, you read that correctly. The most untouchable empire in modern entertainment may finally be cracking down the middle, and what we just uncovered tonight has the entire internet refusing to blink. Before we even step 1 inch into the chaos that is currently swallowing the Carter dynasty whole, before we unpack what the gossip kingpins, the basement bloggers, and the self-anointed celebrity historian, Tasha K herself, have spent the last 72 hours screaming about across every platform on Earth, I need you to do me one tiny favor and slap that like button, hit subscribe, and crank the bell, because the Beehive is about to flood this comment section like a hurricane the second they catch wind of what we are about to talk about. And I genuinely do not want to spend my entire week wrestling with stans who will type paragraphs without ever once reading past the title. So lock that engagement in early, because what we are pulling apart today is not your average tabloid recycling. It is not your average late-night Twitter spiral, and it is definitely not the sort of harmless gossip people forget by Friday. This is something deeper, darker, and far more uncomfortable. And the strangest part is that none of it actually came from me. I am simply the messenger holding up the mirror. The receipts, the timelines, the quotes, the interviews, every single thread we are about to tug on tonight comes from voices that have been screaming about this for over a decade. And now that the dam has finally broken open, the entire conversation has shifted into something nobody is prepared for. So pour your drink, lock your door, silence your phone, because the moment we begin pulling these strings, you will understand why the most powerful woman in music history might be standing inside the most personal storm of her entire career. Picture this. You wake up, you open your phone, you scroll past 2 memes and a sports highlight, and suddenly your entire feed is drowning in a single name, then a second name, then a third name, and before your coffee even finishes brewing, you are reading headlines claiming that Beyonce collapsed in tears behind closed doors after a fresh wave of allegations dragged Rymir Carter and a long-deceased publicist named Kathy White back into the spotlight. Sounds completely absurd, right? It sounds like the kind of story a bored teenager invents on a Tuesday afternoon. But that is precisely the wildfire that tore through the internet. And unlike most viral storms that burn bright and die overnight, this one has refused to lose oxygen. Gossip channels, fringe blogs, anonymous Instagram pages, and conspiracy YouTubers all began circulating the exact same dramatic claim, which is that Rymir himself supposedly confirmed in some hidden statement that Blue Ivy Carter was never biologically Beyonce's child, and that the late Kathy White was actually her real mother. Now, I need you to pump the brakes for a moment, because the second you start examining the spiderweb behind this story, the floor underneath it gets very thin, very fast. People began stitching together blurry old photographs, half-remembered timelines, recycled interviews, decade-old rumors, and dusty forum threads into one massive theory that exploded across TikTok, X, Reddit, and every gossip page hungry for a click. And the more it spread, the more impossible it became to contain. Some fans immediately slammed the entire narrative as cruel, reckless, and disrespectful to a mother, a child, and a woman who was no longer alive to defend herself. Others swallowed the bait whole, convinced they had finally stumbled onto the missing piece of a puzzle the Carters spent 2 decades hiding. The deeper people dug, the louder the conversation grew, and the louder the conversation grew, the algorithm fed it back into millions of timelines. But here's the part that nobody seems willing to admit out loud. None of these allegations have ever been proven. Not in a courtroom, not in a verified document, not in a credible interview, not in a single piece of hard evidence. Yet somehow, year after year, the rumor refuses to die, because when your last name is Carter and your first name is Beyonce or Jay-Z, the public never stops sniffing for a hidden compartment behind the curtain. The marriage, the children, the heartbreak, the silence. Every inch of their private world has become a permanent target on the internet's dartboard. And now, with Rymir's name dragged back into the headlines and Kathy White's tragic death pulled out of the archive once again, people are acting like they have finally cracked open the vault that was always sealed shut. The eeriest part of this entire spiral is how it has resurrected old wounds that the public claimed to have moved past years ago. Wounds from 2011, wounds from Lemonade, wounds from elevator footage, wounds from court documents the average fan never even read. For more than a decade, Beyoncé and Jay-Z have been treated as untouchable royalty, sitting at the very top of a music industry that bends around them. They built more than a marriage. They built an empire that swallowed fashion, film, sports, fragrance, liquor, streaming, and global politics in one bite. Their names became shorthand for power, influence, and a level of cultural dominance most artists cannot even fantasize about. But underneath that polished, gold-plated surface, conspiracy theories have circled them like vultures for years, waiting for one weak moment to swoop in. Take yourself back to 2011, when the very first crack in the public armor appeared. Beyoncé sat down on an Australian morning show while visibly pregnant with Blue Ivy, and the moment she lowered herself into that chair, the fabric of her dress shifted in a way that, to certain viewers, looked unnatural. Within hours, the clip was sliced, slowed down, zoomed in, captioned, recaptioned, and uploaded to thousands of pages claiming her belly had folded like it was made of foam. Suddenly, the internet was no longer watching an interview. It was running a forensic investigation, and the verdict from the armchair detectives was the same on every channel. They were convinced she had worn a fake stomach and used a surrogate. Now, in hindsight, the entire theory sounds ridiculous, but at the time, it was treated like courtroom evidence on every blog, every gossip program, and every early-era YouTube reaction channel. And honestly, a huge reason that theory exploded the way it did is because Beyoncé herself has always operated like a vault. She does not jump on Instagram Live to defend herself. She does not tweet through controversy. She does not address every whisper that floats past her name. She lets her silence become the loudest sound in the room. And that silence, fair or not, becomes a blank canvas onto which the public paints whatever story it wants. Then came Kathy White, and this is where the story curls into something genuinely uncomfortable. Kathy was a young publicist, 28 years old, talented, ambitious, and according to certain whispers within the industry, allegedly entangled with Jay-Z in a way that was never meant to surface. Years later, Tasha K would publicly recount how Kathy had been preparing to share her version of events on the record, claiming she was ready to confirm the affair. And then, just days before that interview could ever take place, Kathy was found dead inside her apartment. The reported cause was a sudden brain aneurysm. She was 28 years old. She had no known health issues. She was alive on a Monday and gone by the end of the week. To the family, it was a devastating, unexplainable loss. To the internet, it became something else entirely. Conspiracy circles instantly latched onto the timing, the silence, the convenience, and the unanswered questions, painting Kathy as a woman who knew too much and was therefore erased before she could speak. And from that moment on, every Jay-Z rumor on the internet absorbed Kathy White's name like a magnet. Then came the most extreme branch of the theory, the one that has now circled back into the headlines this week. Certain channels began placing childhood photos of Kathy beside childhood photos of Blue Ivy, dragging arrows across cheekbones and eyebrows and lip shapes, insisting that the resemblance was undeniable. That alone would have been enough internet madness to keep the rumor mill spinning for years. But then a second name entered the chat, and that name belongs to Rymir Carter. For those unfamiliar, Rymir is a young man who has spent a significant portion of his life insisting that Jay-Z is his biological father, a claim Jay-Z has denied repeatedly through legal channels. The case has bounced through courtrooms, gossip blogs, and Instagram lives for years, and every time the story resurfaces, the internet absolutely loses its mind all over again. Now, with the Kathy White theory and the Blue Ivy theory and the Rymir Carter situation suddenly braided together into one super narrative, the conspiracy machine has gone into total overdrive. According to the gossip pipeline, Rymir supposedly confirmed shocking details about Blue Ivy's true parentage. But when you actually demand evidence, when you sit down and ask for the receipts, the entire structure collapses into vapor. There is no verified interview. There is no hospital document. There is no DNA result. There is no credible court filing, no medical professional, no eyewitness, no insider with a verifiable identity who has stood in front of a camera and confirmed any of it. Yet the rumor keeps multiplying because online speculation has a way of laundering itself into perceived fact the longer it survives. And that, more than anything else, is the genuinely dangerous part of modern celebrity culture. What nobody anticipated was just how emotionally charged this entire moment would become. Fans started rewinding old Beyonce interviews, freezing them frame by frame, hunting for hidden sorrow inside her eyes. Listeners began excavating Lemonade lyrics like they were buried scripture, convinced that every single line was a coded confession about Jay-Z, Kathy, a surrogate, an affair, a secret child, a buried truth. Suddenly, every red dress in a music video became a clue. Every glance became a confession. Every silence became a scream. And then came the dramatic headlines insisting that Beyoncé had been spotted weeping behind closed doors, that she was emotionally shattered, that the cumulative weight of 15 years of rumor had finally broken something inside her. Now, to be entirely fair, no one outside of that household truly knows what is happening behind those closed doors. But imagine being one of the most photographed women on the planet and watching strangers debate your motherhood, your fertility, your marriage, and your children on a loop every single day for over a decade. That kind of relentless dissection would emotionally drown almost anyone alive. And here is another reason this story refuses to fade. People are addicted to the idea that royalty must be hiding something, especially a couple like Beyoncé and Jay-Z, whose public image feels almost too polished, too curated, too geometrically perfect. The human brain instinctively distrusts perfection, and the moment we sense a glossy surface, we start searching for the crack underneath. We saw this exact pattern detonate when Jay-Z publicly confirmed his infidelity during the Lemonade era. That single album shattered the illusion that their marriage was untouchable, and once that illusion fractured, every old rumor came rushing back through the new opening. Songs like Sorry and Hold Up became cultural earthquakes because listeners believed Beyoncé was bleeding in real time onto a microphone. Then Jay-Z answered through 444, confessing, apologizing, peeling back layers of himself in a way no rapper of his stature had ever done. Their music became therapy performed in front of 100 million spectators, and that vulnerability did not soothe the conspiracy theorists, it supercharged them. Because once the public sees one secret confirmed, they assume there must be 10 more buried underneath. But this is where the conversation crosses an extremely uncomfortable line because there is an actual child sitting in the middle of all of this. Blue Ivy was born into a level of global attention most adults could not psychologically survive. She has been photographed, analyzed, ranked, criticized, praised, and dissected since the second she took her first breath. Imagine being a young girl on the cusp of her teenage years, scrolling through TikTok one quiet afternoon and discovering that millions of strangers have spent your entire lifetime arguing about whether your own mother is actually your mother. That is not gossip. That is psychological warfare disguised as entertainment. And yet, the machine keeps grinding because social media rewards shock the way a casino rewards a slot machine. The wilder the title, the bigger the payout. One dramatic thumbnail can generate millions of views overnight, and the moment emotion enters the equation, factual accuracy quietly walks out the back door. Another accelerant pouring fuel onto this fire is Beyoncé's signature silence. She almost never responds to internet conspiracies directly. Some fans interpret that silence as elegance, dignity, and old-school class. Others, less generously, interpret it as guilt. But anyone who has studied her career for longer than 5 minutes understands that this is simply how she operates. She does not argue. She does not clap back. She responds through visuals, through performances, through carefully timed albums, through cinematic films, through Coachella sets that rewrite cultural history. That artistic strategy keeps her untouchable, but it also leaves an enormous vacuum for the public to fill with whatever fantasy it chooses.
Take Lemonade as the perfect case study. Lemonade was not simply an album, it was a sprawling visual confession built around betrayal, forgiveness, rage, ancestry, and survival. Fans spent literal years decoding every shot, every wardrobe choice, every spoken word, every hidden reference. Then, when Cowboy Carter arrived, conspiracy theorists charged back into the trenches, convinced that the lyrics contained quiet references to Kathy White, to Rymir, to family secrets buried beneath the Carter empire. That is the unique gravitational pull of Beyonce's artistry. She crafts work that feels deeply personal without ever fully explaining itself, and that ambiguity allows millions of strangers to project their own theories onto her canvas. Meanwhile, Jay-Z's public image plays an equally crucial role in why these stories travel so far, so fast. For decades, he has been portrayed as a master strategist, a quiet genius, a man whose moves are always 5 steps ahead of the audience watching them. Rumors of affairs, secret offspring, industry deals, hush payments, and shadowy operations have followed him like a second shadow for almost his entire career. So when Rymir Carter trends again, when Kathy White trends again, when Blue Ivy trends again, the public instinctively assumes that smoke this thick must be hiding a real fire somewhere underneath. But assumption is not evidence, and the internet has never been particularly good at telling the difference between the two. Let me be crystal clear about something. There is still zero verified proof that Blue Ivy is anyone other than Beyonce and Jay-Z's biological daughter. Every viral claim circulating right now is sourced from speculation videos, anonymous tipsters, recycled blog posts, and gossip channels feeding each other in a closed loop. Unfortunately, once a rumor reaches a certain altitude, it becomes nearly impossible to drag back down. The internet does not forget. The internet does not forgive. The internet does not fact-check. And emotionally, that reality has to be utterly exhausting for Beyonce, because beyond the awards and the fortune and the global tours, she is still, at the end of every day, a mother trying to shield her children from a public that often forgets they are real human beings. Even fans who genuinely love her sometimes accidentally feed the fire, because every quote tweet, every reaction video, every dramatic stitch keeps the algorithm hungry. The more oxygen the story receives, the more aggressively it spreads. And perhaps the most tragic dimension of this entire saga is the way modern celebrity culture builds icons up so it can later enjoy tearing them down. One week, Beyonce is hailed as a goddess on a Renaissance world tour. The next week, the internet is rewriting her entire motherhood with unverified gossip pulled from a Tumblr post nobody can even source anymore. And honestly, that pattern says a great deal more about us as a culture than it does about her as a woman. Still, despite the chaos, Beyonce keeps moving forward. She keeps touring, keeps releasing, keeps building businesses, keeps shielding her family with the same quiet armor she has worn for 25 years. The Carter family has survived infidelity scandals, elevator brawls, conspiracy avalanches, surrogacy whispers, parentage allegations, and an unrelenting flood of public scrutiny that would have shattered almost any other marriage on the planet. Yet somehow they continue standing side by side in stadiums while the world waits for the slightest crack in the armor. And maybe that is precisely why people remain so completely obsessed. Their story has stopped feeling like celebrity gossip. It now feels like a modern mythological epic, complete with love, betrayal, mystery, loss, ambition, and survival, all unfolding underneath the brightest spotlight humanity has ever invented. So at the end of all of this, the claims involving Rymir Carter, Kathy White, and Blue Ivy remain exactly what they have always been, which is unproven internet speculation dressed up in dramatic packaging. No credible source has confirmed a single dramatic headline circulating this week. But because Beyonce and Jay-Z are global landmarks, every whisper attached to their names is automatically blasted into worldwide conversation within minutes. And sadly, the internet rarely waits for truth before it presses publish. So the real question we should all be asking ourselves tonight is this: are we genuinely searching for the truth? Or have we simply become addicted to watching powerful people unravel in public? Because sometimes it feels like the audience craves the drama more than the facts. One thing, however, is absolutely certain. As long as Beyoncé and Jay-Z remain seated at the top of the industry, the conspiracy machine attached to their family will never fully shut down. The mystery surrounding their private world keeps the public hooked, and social media keeps converting that obsession into viral entertainment overnight. But behind every shocking headline, every dramatic thumbnail, every recycled theory, there are real human beings trapped inside the storm, forced to live underneath the judgment of millions of strangers who will never know them, never meet them, and never have to face the consequences of what they have said. And maybe that is the part of this entire story the audience forgets the easiest. So tell me down below, do you believe any of these claims hold real weight? Or is this just another chapter in the internet's endless obsession with tearing down the Carter empire? Drop your thoughts, hit that subscribe, and stay locked in. Because trust me when I say this story is far from finished, and the next chapter is already loading.